Hi guys, welcome back, and this time around I'm bringing you a review which basically has all of the latest planars around. I'm of course talking about the TinHifi Dudu, the HIDIZS MP143 and the Letshuoer S08. These are the latest stuff. There's a few more that are on the way, namely one from Score and another one from HT Sound, but I haven't received those ones, so I decided to just do this and get it out of the way, and then when those ones come, throw those ones into the mix. Anyway, as I was saying, these three planars are let's say alternative implementations of what has been done by now by these specific companies, in the sense that they are using, well, in the case of the Dudu and in the case of the S08, a smaller planar driver, a 13mm planar driver. Begs the question if the driver used in either one of these two is the same, and also if this is perhaps in any way related to the KZ PR1 driver, which I've got over here. While the HIDIZS, the MP143, uses a 14.3mm driver, which again, raises the question: is this driver here in any way related to the driver of the F1 Pro, or related to the driver of the the P1 Max Mark II, the Panda, the Mark II over there? And the reason why I'm saying this is that, whether we like it or not, the number of driver manufacturers is limited, and the number of drivers available as well is to a certain extent limited, at least when it comes to planar drivers. And so it's inevitable that there will be a commonality in the drivers being used. I mean, for example, the Shozi, the P20, and the MP145 from HIDIZS are using the same driver, not using basically the same. They're using the same driver. I've opened one and I've opened the other, and the drivers are identical. They've just done their own tuning. Let's put it that way. So yeah, let's get this out of the way. Any one of them is decently accessorized. I'm gonna start here with the Dudu. I think it's the easiest. So it brings the typical, let's say, packaging that TinHifi usually gives us. This unit, I got it from LINSOUL. It uses, it's got two different cables, a normal 3.5 pin cable, and then one with a USB connector. Okay, ample amount of tips. It's got the famous blue foam tips, which I also actually tried them out on the Dudu, and didn't really do much. And then the IMs came over there, and that's basically it. I mean, nothing more to be said. Some paperwork, very simple, straight to the point. The price is around, well, anywhere between $79 and $99, depending on whether it's on sale or not. And the IM itself, let me just get these two boxes here out of the way so we have a little bit more clarity and space. The IMs themselves are made of this all alloy shell, very understated, design on the faceplate. Nothing too crazy. I'm not using obviously the stock cable. I'm using an IVipQ cable. I found that this particular cable, again, let's pay attention to what I'm about to say. Cables are always a very dicey topic, but I found that this cable just slightly helped out with the tendency for the Dudu to sound more planar-ish. And why do I say this? Well, because planars, they have obviously their particular timbre and tonality, and in the beginning, planars were criticized because they were too metallic sounding. I mean, going back to the time of the Timeless, the S12, and then we started getting tunings which were a little bit more DD-like, and the Dudu has gone back from the P1 Max Mark II, has gone back to a more planar type of sound, which means it's a little bit colder and a little bit more extended past 8-9K, which can, it depends on your mileage, but can lead to some earlier fatigue. So I found that this cable just gave it a little bit of a slightly different tonality, nothing major, but a little bit different, and besides that, it just looks better than the stock cable. Anyway, fit is fine. I'm using the KB Euro 7 tips. I use the blue ones as well from TinHifi. They measured identical, nothing different there. They sounded identical as well. So I just left the silicones just for the sake of how I like the way they fit. That's it. Sound wise on the Dudu, and I've got here the P1 Max Mark II as a basis of comparison. There is roughly a $30 difference, maybe sometimes a little bit less, depending on if you find one on the other on sale or not. They are using obviously two different types of planar drivers, and they do have two different types of tuning. The Max, the Panda, is definitely a little bit more bass present. It's got a little bit more weight to the songs, and it doesn't take much. You take, for example, Sweat from J.K. Reviv, or you take From Dusk to Dawn from George Duke, and it's very easy. You straight away notice that the bass on the Panda, it's just got that little extra weight. I mean, it's not that it's a huge difference, but it's just got a little extra weight. I would say the bass on the Dudu is maybe a little bit more mid-bass emphasized, while on the Panda you get a little bit more sub-bass. But I just overall found the bass of the Panda, of the Mark II, just a little bit more satisfying and more pleasing to me. In terms of the mids and the highs, there is, I would say that the Panda is more DD-like in its presentation, although it's obviously got some planar traits, while this one is more planar in its presentation. And what that means is that at lower volumes, I think many will probably prefer, some will probably prefer the extra bout of detail that you get from this, and the little bit extra amount of twinklies and resolution and sparklies and all of that stuff that the Dudu offers. Once you start pushing the volume a little bit more, I think that this one will probably fatigue earlier than the Panda will. So it's again a question of mileage and what your preference is. Either way, both of them are very good. Both of them offer a different style, a slightly different style or approach to a planar. If you have one, is it worth getting the other? Personally, I don't think so. I think the Panda is a very, very good planar IEM, and the Dudu, doesn't, honestly, in my opinion, have enough to justify it being acquired as a side grade to the Panda. No, it doesn't. I mean, obviously, again, and let me repeat, this all depends. If you prefer a more clinical sound, then fine, and you don't have either one of them, then go for the Dudu. It is cheaper and everything, so in that aspect, then okay, fine, I can see a reason for the Dudu to be obtained. As I was saying, the mids and the highs on the Dudu are nice and clean. Male and female vocals come across nice. There's nothing really that was in my objection. I did find that sometimes, because of that extra amount of energy that they have, that they could sound just a little bit borderline sibilant on some songs. But I mean, this is me really nitpicking. There's really nothing majorly that I can pick out as a negative point in the Dudu. The thing that, yes, is obvious when you first listen, like I mentioned, is that there's definitely a bit more weight on the bass here than there is there, and that can also perhaps convey that maybe the mids and the highs here sound a little bit more DD-like, while the mids and the highs there, because of that less energy present on the bass, come across as being a little bit more clinical, a little bit more sterile, if you want to put it that way. Overall, I think it's an interesting IM. It's a nice enough IM. It's got decent accessories, and worth your consideration. Let's put it that way. Okay, so that's the TinHifi out of the way. Let's get now here the Letshuoer and talk about that. All right, the Letshuoer, again, simple package. This can be had for $99. This particular one, I got it as well from LINSOUL. Very, very simple in its accessories. Nothing outrageous. It does have a case, which is a nice here we go, case. It does have a case, which is a nice addition. The tips are the usual tips that we do find with Letshuoer products, and the cable is a modular cable, and a nice one, by the way. To be totally frank, I actually the cable was a pleasant surprise. All right, so let's get this out of the way here. The cable actually was a very nice surprise. You know, when you consider the price and everything, nice, very nice. The IM itself, it's got a more, let's say, unusual shape, but it fits beautifully, very light. Again, it uses the same, well, same, I'm not sure, but it uses a 13mm planar driver. And the tuning here is a complete opposite to the tuning on the Dudu. But when I get into the comparisons, I'll explain a little bit better. Fit is nice. The only thing that I found was that because of the way that this plug is done, it has a tendency, and I had to play around here and heat this ear hook a little bit. I think I will end up just removing the plastic around it just to be better. It has a tendency of slightly wanting to push the IM out of my ear, but other than that, it's fine. Fits nicely, isolates nicely. I'm using the stock tips again. The cable, like I said, I'm using the stock cable because it's perfect. So nothing that can be said there. As a comparison, fair enough, I could have gotten the S12, but I said to myself, now let me just get the S15 because that's the latest. Obviously, there's a huge disparity in terms of price. This is 3 times the price of the S15, and the S15 does have that extra driver, that passive radiator. Let's put it that way, what they call the arsonic filtering system. And it's using also a 14.8mm planar driver, a bigger driver, and excuse me, all of these things obviously convey at a different tuning. It's kind of a resin plastic type of shell. I can't really understand what type of material this is. Anyway, this is their top of the line. I was a little bit critical in the beginning when they launched the S15 because of its price. It is a good IM. Sonically, it is a good IM. It's up there with the likes of the MP143. It's probably, one of the better planars out there. But the price is just a little bit excessive. Fine, it's got a nice cable, also modular. Fine, it brings the case and the tips and all this technology and all of that. Fine, I can understand all of that. But this should have been an IM that, in my opinion, should have been at the most priced at about $200, at the very most. And I think at that price, yes, the S15 would have gathered way more momentum and would have been purchased by many more people. The S15 also took a totally different approach from the S12. Well, you have the S12, the S12 Pro, which already kind of tamed down that overly energetic upper mids and treble, and then the S15 further tamed down that energy. So this has got more of that like DD type of presentation, which again is what we obtain here in the S08. The S08 has got definitely a more DD type presentation. Yes, there will be more than enough occasions where you will notice that you are listening to or where you will have, let's rather say, that those planar characteristics, but in essence, this is in that scale that weighs more towards the DD side. Bass is nice and full as compared to, for example, to the Dudu. I prefer the bass here on the S08, definitely. So bass is nice and full. It's got a nice weight to the bass, very similar to the bass actually on the S15. Actually, I'm going to say something here in favor of the S08. In many occasions, many occasions, I was actually a little bit, I'm not going to say struggle, but I was kind of, is this the S15 or is this the S08? That's how impressed I actually was with the S08 sound. So it's very, very competent in the way that it's actually been tuned, in my opinion. It's got more that DD-like sound, like I said, yes, but it's been very nicely done, and the balance, that overall warmth and tonality that it conveys is very agreeable and very much towards my liking. So I definitely am a fan of the S08. I'm not going to deny it. The mids, upper mids, and treble, all very well done. You don't notice any sense of metallicness in the or that planar timbre that can sometimes be to people's disagreement. Overall, very nicely tuned, male, female vocals, instruments, everything sounds very much organic, very much musical. A complete opposite to the Dudu. The Dudu definitely sounds more clinical, okay, and you could say, okay, more technically capable. The S08 sounds more organic, more musical. So definitely two very opposite ways of tuning what seems or what possibly is the same 13mm driver. You could argue, oh, but it's the shell. Well, they both are using metal shells. It's definitely the way that they've been tuned that dictates the difference that the sound has. As compared to the S15, as I've just mentioned, very similar to the sound of the S15 in a lot of instances. Yes, you will ultimately see that the S15 is just more elegant, more polished. With certain songs, "The City" from John Marks, or "Musical Genocide" from Gregory Porter is one. Even "Elephant" from Carol Duboc. You will see that this edges out the S08, but funny enough, not as much as you would expect when you consider the price difference. So I would personally say, as kind of a sum up, that this is a good alternative for those that wanted or would have liked the S15 for its tuning, but didn't unfortunately have the money to afford it. The S08 is perhaps a very solid option. The S12 Pro is how can I put this? The S12 Pro has got a lot of, or rather, the S08 has got a lot of the S12 Pro's characteristics, just less detail up top. Okay, if that again might help, position and you guys understand where the S08 stands. And that's that. I mean, like I said, a very solid option if you do not have the money to buy the S15. Okay, and that's that there. And now finally, let's bring here the MP143. MP143, again, typical HIDIZS presentation in terms of the box. Okay, it's using a 14.3mm driver, which they've got here all the characteristics. The impedance has come down as compared to the impedance of the MP145. The MP145 had a higher impedance. I believe it was somewhere around the 30 something ohms, 34 ohms if I'm mistaken. This one's come down to about 17. The MP145 brings a nice cable, but honestly, I would have liked if the cable would have been just a little bit better. I'm not going to deny it, okay? It brings a decent enough cable. The tips come in this very alternative method, although I am actually using the stock tips on it. I did try some Divinos Velvet, as I did on the MP145, but I still prefer the stock tips. The one nice thing that the MP145 has is these tuning nozzles, again, the silver, the red, and the gold, which are the ones that are on there, which I believe gives the most balanced sound, and it's got a little carrying pouch. So overall, you can't really complain about what is offered. Price, I understand, is well, at least now in this early stages, I think it's somewhere around the $99 price point, which again, slots right into the price point of the Dudu and the S08. So you could say that this is HIDIZ's option or competitor in this price bracket of up to $100 maximum. The MP145 is its bigger brother. They have a lot of similarities here, as you can see, in terms of the shell. Let me pick up both left sides. So this is left, this is left. Okay, there's a lot of similarities here in terms of the shell, as you can see. Okay, a lot of similarities. All right, slightly bigger the shell of the MP145 in terms of the face plate. Thickness, very, very similar, not much. Overall size, again, very similar. There isn't a lot of difference. Both of them use those adjustable nozzles. And yeah, that's basically it. The difference here is really that this uses a 14.3, this uses a 14.5. And again, there is some difference in terms of the way that the tuning has been done, although they do have these nozzles that you can use to help you, let's say, obtain alternative tunings for it. Jumping into the sound, the thing that I noticed straight away when I listen to the MP143 as compared to the MP145 is that the sound here is definitely a it's noticeably more clinical than it is on the MP145. The MP145 has got that extra amount of bass weight, bass presence, which just, it's not that it's a monstrous difference, no, it isn't, but it's noticeable enough for you to pick up on it, and for, in my case at least, for me to say that I prefer it over the MP143 ever so slightly. Although, again, that's, let me just make sure that's just my preference. But that's just one aspect. with regards to the rest, with regards to the mids and the highs, um, they are they both trade blows. Let's put it that way. The fact that the MP145 has got that little extra amount of base weight does convey it the sense, at least with the nozzle that I have on with it, which is the one that again I find the most correct one, which is a silver nozzle, as you can see there. I find that with this nozzle, the MP145 has a sound which is definitely more organic, definitely more musical, definitely more DD-like. And with the gold nozzle here on the MP143, we get again that same sensation, but with a little bit extra more planar magic. So you have just that little extra amount of detail, a little extra amount of twinklies and sparklies. It's not a huge difference, but you do notice it's just a little bit more. Is it better? Is it worse? No, it's just a different way that they've approached this tuning. So again, and I think very much like it's been the case with TinHifi and with Letshuoer, they've tried to offer another alternative to having a planar. So for those that want planar in its true essence of being more planar-ish, maybe the 143 will be the better option. For those that want planar more in its organic, more DD-like style of presentation, then maybe the MP145 will be the option. Even with the different nozzles that you can try in the MP145, it always sounds definitely more DD like. On the 143, for example, if you try the red nozzle on it, it goes very dark. It boosts the bass, it cuts the mids quite significantly in energy, and becomes just overly dark. Okay, maybe in that format it will sound more DD, but I think it just sounds wrong, and it just sounds colored in a wrong way. With the silver nozzle, it further emphasizes specific parts there of the mids, upper mids, and treble, conveying it that extra amount of detail, that extra amount of planar feel. So definitely more planar in its presentation always, while the MP145 is definitely always more DD-like in its presentation. Again, both are excellent, both are very good, both would make sense to own, more so actually than in the case of the TinHifis, the P1 Max Mark II and the Dudu. So while in these two, if you have the Max, I think you ultimately are not going to get that much more from owning a Dudu. If in the case of the S08 and the S15, with the S08 you have the ability to get a lot of the S15's magic, but at a cheaper value. Over here, they do make sense. That there is definitely something which will probably justify having both of them. However, having said that, if you are able to pick up the MP145 at a discounted price, I personally would go for the MP145. Obviously, I guess you could still go down the road of wanting to, since the nozzles are interchangeable, slightly retuning the nozzles and obtaining a different tuning. Yes, you could do that, and in that case, the MP145 still makes a little bit more sense. In my opinion, if you are wanting to go down the DIY route, if you just want to maintain things as they are and just use the stock nozzles, and you're not inclined to fool around, then yes, they both have strong arguments for owning them, and they do make a solid complement to each other. Okay, and I guess that basically, in a nutshell, puts things here into context. Comparing now the three of them, and throwing in here perhaps these other three IEMs into the equation, let's just have a little quick chat here. Okay, as I was saying, the Dudu is very clinical in its presentation. At lower volumes, it's lower to mid volumes. It's got a nice engaging sound. Maybe at higher volumes, or if you don't choose your source properly, or if you don't have the right tip, it can become a little bit fatiguing. But overall, it's a nice presentation. It's a nice IM. Although I question if enough has been made to truly justify it. The S08, I personally like it very much. I like the way the presentation that it has been executed. It's got very much that DD kind of sound, yes, that's true, but there's enough planar mojo there to still identify it as a planar driver. And like I said, it just plays everything that I threw at it very nicely. Be it things like Meantime from Mick Roach, or Fool Me Once by Lindsay Webster, or Holding On from Gregory Porter, or going all the way into something like, for example, let's see, These Bones from the Fairfield 4, or Stand By Me by Dominic Fils-Aimé. It just play even with stuff, well, even with stuff, obviously with stuff that is more bass heavy or more EDM inclined, it does well, like Baby You're Mine from Vince the DJ. Fantastic, fantastic. The MP143, I think, is the one that perhaps has the best of both worlds. This is more clinical, this is more fun, engaging, more maybe musical. This one, I think, reaches the happy middle point between the two of them. It's got plenty of and I think that is down as well to the fact that you have those nozzles which allow for it. But even just using the nozzle that it's got on there and compared to the other two as they are, okay, just with the gold nozzle, yes, the gold nozzle. Just let me make sure, yes, exactly, gold nozzle. Just don't want to mislead you guys. Even with just the gold nozzle, which is the more balanced nozzle of the three, in my opinion, it's able to be clinical or detailed and have really good detailed retrieval when it's needed. Songs like I said, let me see an example. Piano Man from Wolfgang Hafner, fantastic. There's nothing I can point negative in terms of its execution of that song. Or Drifting from Lee Rethenweiss, six string as well, nothing. Fever by Ray Charles with Natalie Cole, again, beautiful presentation. But at the same time, if I took something like, for example, Shocked by Poison, it did it well. Okay, maybe it lacked a little bit the engagement here of the S08, but nothing nothing that you could really. It would be more of a nitpick than anything else. But on the songs where the technical aspects of it were being pushed or were being asked for, it kept up and superseded the TinHifi by having just that little extra amount of energy that made it sound a little bit fuller and not so clinical. Again, and let me just make this clear, I'm not saying that this is lifeless or anything of the sort. No, I'm not. It will probably, I mean, when I compare it to something with the PR1 Pro, it definitely isn't lifeless. It's definitely got loads of bass presence, because the way that the upper mids and treble have been done here, although very similar to the PR1 Pro, it's a little bit tamer, so you don't get that excessive energy up top like you do on the PR1 Pro. And mind you, I find that my opinion of the PR1 Pro is that it's the best KZ planar, the best one by far. Okay. So, in summary, just to summarize things here, more clinical, in its presentation, more detail orientated, more fun, more organic, more, let's say, old school in its presentation, good happy medium between the two of them. And if they all are at the same price, probably one that would be the wiser choice, especially because you got those adjustable nozzles that you can then also interchange and swap out and so on and so forth. Negatives, maybe the shell size could be an issue for some, which is not the case on the TinHifi or on the S08 from Letshuoer. And as well, I would have liked slightly better accessories. I mean, this has got a really nice cable. Slightly better accessories here on the MP143, sorry, would have been nice. Just a very quick comparison here with the top three there. The PR1 Pro is kind of very much like the TinHifi Dudu in its presentation, that very clinical presentation. But if you select the right source, it can be very engaging. I would even dare say maybe just a little more engaging even than the TinHifi on certain occasions. Okay. The shows that the P20 has got very much the sound which approximates itself more to the sound here of the S08. So it's got a more organic, more kind of musical type of presentation. So you know, if P20, I've seen the P20 now on sale actually at $70 something. At $70 something, honestly, it's a very solid, worthwhile deal, especially when you consider this is very equal in its presentation to the MP145 with the silver nozzle. This, the P20 compared to the MP145 with the silver nozzle, they are very identical, okay. And then the F1 Pro, yeah, from Nice HDK is kind of like the is like the MP143, very similar in their presentation. I wonder if they actually are using the same driver, 14.3, 14.2, could be. I'm not sure. They trade blows. So if you have this, you basically know what this is about. I think still that this sounds just a tad little bit thinner in its bass than the F1 Pro does. It could be just me nitpicking here, but that's the you know, the feeling that I get. That's what comes across. I was trying to see if I could actually find a song that could illustrate that. Oh yeah, From Dusk to Dawn from George Duke. From Dusk to Dawn from George Duke. You listen to it on here. It's got that nice impact. Yes, it's solid, but on there, just got that little extra amount of weight. You notice it. Like I said, tips maybe the way that it fits into my ear. I'm not sure, but that's the idea that I get. Anyway, guys, that's basically it. I'll be showing you the graphs in a second video separately, like I've been doing out lately. But overall, I hope I was helpful enough in clarifying or in positioning these three Planar drivers that have been launched now over the last basically 2 months. And like I said, you know, it all comes down to what is your overall preference. But the one that's perhaps the most balanced and the one that would make the most sense is the MP143, due to the fact that it's got those nozzles which can convey a little bit of extra versatility in the tuning. All right, guys, take care. As always, like and subscribe. If there's any questions or anything you'd like me to compare them with, please let me know and I'll do my best. Part 2 coming soon.